Hello again, everybody, and welcome back. It is the second day of January 2026, and here I go again. So, I'm on Laurel Canyon right now, working my way back from Hollywood over to the valley because not only do I have to go back to Ventura because that's where I live, but I was talking to my family, finding out what they wanted to eat tonight, if they wanted to go out, and sounded to me like they wanted me to cook. So we discussed it, and it looks like it's going to be teriyaki salmon. So I figured, why not stop by one of my favorite places to get fruits and vegetables, Tapia Brothers Farms over on Havenhurst, right there by the Sepulveda Basin. And then I gotta go stop by one of the guys from Jackass. And I'm sure you've seen the show and the movies. One of the guys from Jackass, I lent him a book, a little book. It's actually kind of a cool book. I'll show it to you when I get it back. I lent it to him some time back, and I was figuring, well, since I'm in the area, I just texted him and asked him if it was okay if I stopped by to pick it up. So I'm going to do that. I'll show you the book. I'm actually going to tell you a little more about this because there's a funny connection between who wrote that book, some people that I am connected to through film school, and also, sorry about that, I'm in the canyon. Obviously, I'm going to be turning the steering wheel. Owner of a tiki bar that I know. So I'll reveal all of that after I get through this canyon and get my vegetables at Tapia Brothers Farms. Oh, I also have another. Wow, you want to hear a connection? Just complete serendipity. Wow, and I got to thank the people at Tapia Brothers Farms for coming through for me on that. And it's not like I didn't bug them for months and months and months on through Facebook Messenger. But we'll take a look at that connection too. For now, it is getting through this canyon. Getting to Tapia Brothers Farms first for some vegetables for dinner tonight. And then off to get my book. And then we'll discuss it more after that. I always thought that was like the weirdest name for a park. Moorpark Park. I mean, Moorpark is a city in our county. And I don't know, just having the parks together there, Moorpark Park. I don't know what the options would be. Maybe don't name it Moorpark, or maybe Park Moorpark. I don't know. How would you do that as a naming committee or a designer or something? I mean, it's kind of weird. Maybe it's somebody's name and it was really important. I don't know. I had to meet somebody there one time when I was taking my kids to Universal Studios one morning. Oh, we had too many cars. We had too many cars, and one of the guys from work needed one of the cars back, so he brought the tow truck over and loaded up the car that I had because we stayed down here. My kids wanted to go to the pool at the hotel or whatever, so we stayed down in this area. That's actually the time when I discovered Red Window Coffee. Like, that's the trip. I was coming back from probably San Diego or Newport Beach or Laguna Niguel or something like that. And my kids and my wife drove down from Ventura, and we stayed here in Studio City. Went to Bob's Big Boy for dinner. You know, that's kind of like a big thing over here. Everybody likes to go to the Bob's Big Boy in Burbank. And we met at that park for him to pick up the other car that I had, so that we just took my wife's car into Universal. We had a pass, but did we have I think we had a pass at that time, but we only had pass for one car. But they needed the car anyway, so it worked out. But yeah, Moorpark Park. I don't know. What would you do? After some thinking, though, I'm sure somebody could come up with a better idea than that. Okay, getting off here at Havenhurst, the street that only has an off-ramp on one side of the freeway. So this is where Tapia Brothers is. Let's go down here and get some vegetables for tonight's dinner. Tapia Brothers Farms. Would you believe this? All I got to do is say I want to go somewhere for this vlog and they're closed. Well, the curse of the vlog strikes again. I guess I'm just going to have to get my vegetables where I get my fish. Maybe because of the rain they're closed? I don't know. Their thing has a roof over it, so you got me. Anyway, I don't know. This is becoming a theme on this vlog. Okay, so I don't know what keeps happening. That's Sherman Library closed when I went there early on that specific day. Noggles Tacos was closed when I wanted to go to lunch. And then when I was like, okay, Noggles is closed, no big deal. I'm like, I'll go to Tio Flaco's Tacos because I was over there by Fountain Valley. And they were closed. Like, they just closed. The employees were walking away from the store. And then now I'm talking about going to Tapia Brothers, not only for the vegetables tonight, but there's a funny thing that happened there. So I'll tell you, I'm only about 2 minutes from one of the places I have to stop to pick up my book. So I'm not going to be able to get into the story about my connection to Tapia Brothers and how they were so cool and bringing back a piece of my childhood. Not my early childhood, but my childhood. I think I was, 15 years old. So I will hit that story here shortly. I just have to work my way into this neighborhood. Get my book from one of the stars of Jackass. Very cool guy. I'm not going to mention anything until after I'm going to do something for him. And then at that point, I'll ask him, hey, is it cool if I talk about you on my for this? Where am I going here? There's no street here. There's no street there. Okay. What do you call this thing? Ways? There's no street. There was an alley next to a drainage ditch. What the heck? Okay, so I'm just gonna keep going up this way. Yeah, after I work out the thing with this book, I'm gonna try to get another book for him signed by the author. Ed Gamester, if you're watching, I'm gonna come looking for you here very soon, and hopefully you can. What street does this thing think I'm on? There are absolutely no streets to turn on. Oh, no, this is Apple Maps. Apple, what the hell are you doing? Okay, guys, I gotta turn around and figure this out. I should have put it in Waze just to see if it tried to do the same thing to me. But there was like 3 turns in a row. There were no streets there. And that's Apple Maps. That is such a trip. I got my book. It's a handbook, really. I'll tell you more about that in a second. I did want to back up a bit and talk about Tapia Farms. And I'm going to apologize to you right now for this just being such a talking head video. Like, you've just been watching me through the hole in the steering wheel here because I wasn't able to get out, use my gimbal and all that stuff at the Tapia Brothers Farms. But anyway, I'll work that out. I'll get my vegetables and my my salmon for the teriyaki salmon this evening. My daughter likes it in we make a bowl of rice with the vegetables and I grill the vegetables and I do the salmon in the oven and teriyaki sauce on top. It's really good. So, Tapia Brothers Farms. it's more than just a place where you go to like to buy fruits and vegetables, although I mean it very much is that, right? So they do a thing at Halloween for like the kids. They have the corn maze, which is really cool. It's a pretty, as far as corn mazes go, it's pretty gnarly. And they have like a little, I wouldn't call it a petting zoo, but they have some animals there that that are along the side, past the fruit and vegetable stand. And we were there one day walking, looking at the animals, and I see this thing that they have like a bucket, a feed bucket in, and just a couple other things just kind of stacked on it. It wasn't being used for what it was supposed to be, let me tell you, because I knew exactly what it was when I saw it. And I looked at it and I said, that is the same waterfall that I had when I was a teenager. So let me backtrack a little bit. When I got my first job, I saved up my first 2 paychecks to buy a faux rock fiberglass waterfall from Green Thumb in Ventura. It was like I think it was like with tax and everything, it was like $214 or something like that. Came with a pump. All you had to do was like plug it in and, add water and plug it in, and then it recirculates. And it's fiberglass, but it's natural looking. You know what? I'm going to help you out here. I am going to throw some B-roll on this, maybe some clips or photos of when I was picking this thing up. But anyway, my parents never would have gone for anything like that. I always was fascinated with these things when I was a kid. And I had my first job working at the pet store back when I was like 15 years old. And I saved my first 2 paychecks. And the first thing I bought with it was this waterfall at Green Thumb. Well, they also have a Green Thumb in the valley too. And this was a fiberglass waterfall that could be produced out of a mold, like somebody stacks the rocks up the right way, maybe fills in a little bit with some clay or concrete or whatever, and then makes a cast to produce these fiberglass waterfalls to sell them out to various nurseries, and they're identical. So I saw this thing at Tapia Brothers Farms. Mine was long gone because when my parents moved out of the last place that I remember having that, they didn't take it with them because it was in the backyard. It was kind of part of the landscaping. So it was lost forever, basically. And I saw this thing and I started asking around, messaging through Facebook. I was like, I'll buy that from you. I'll buy you a new thing to store your goat feed on in a bucket. Whatever it takes, I want that thing. Because I had been gotten back into gardening after we bought our second home. And for some reason, the first place, I don't know, maybe it had enough landscaping already. I never really got into it. But at our new place that we moved into 16 years ago, I really started getting into the tropical gardening again, like I was at my parents' house. Oh, and that, just for your information, that waterfall lived in my bedroom for the first, I don't know, couple of weeks or so. I had it inside my bedroom. We had one of those bay window kind of things where it sat back in there. I had some plants around it, and it was just there amongst my aquariums and terrariums and stuff like that. And I just had to have this thing. And I think I messaged these people on Facebook, Tapia Brothers Farms, for months. Just kind of, I wasn't pestering them, but ever so often, hey, do you still have it? I would really love to buy that from you. I would be happy to replace it with some shelving, maybe some iron shelves or something that works outside to hold your goat food on. And eventually the guy said, yeah, give me $60. I went there so fast. All right, well, I'm here at Tapia Brothers Farms with the Land Rover. or with a Land Rover, I should say. And I'm picking up this fountain. I'm rinsing it off here. But they agreed to let me take it. I've been bugging them for it, bugging them about it for since Halloween, last Halloween. And we finally struck a deal. $60. I got this thing. It had like all kinds of like spiders and spider eggs and stuff on the back of it, because you have to understand, it's like, it looks like a stack of rocks from the front, but the back of it is hollowed out, basically concave. It's a fiberglass structure. So all I had to do was buy a pump. So I was into it for not quite as much money as I was initially, but this has been years later. I mean, that was like 1985 when I bought that thing. So you got to account for inflation and all that. The thing's very durable. Fiberglass, you know, it lasts a long time. So I got that from them finally. It's the same. It was taken from the same mold as my original one. I knew it very well. So I do want to say thank you to Tapia Brothers Farms for hooking me up with that thing. It's living a very nice life in a tropical garden in Ventura. And I've reworked it a little bit so I don't have to fill it with water so much. You know, I kind of set it on top of a basin and drop the pump in the basin. And instead of it dumping directly into the pump and back up, it drops into the basin, which is, you know, more gallons of water. And that way I don't have to fill it up as often, because it does splash. And, you know, the water level goes down fairly quickly if you don't have some sort of a backup plan like that, which I do. I know one thing you might be asking, where's his coffee? So I had 2 Tim Hortons at home, and then I had 2 donut shop blends, whatever they are, at work. And I was talking to some of the people in the office there, and they were talking about how everybody was at breakfast for New Year's Day, the 1st. And I was like, no, I don't go to that place because I don't eat wheat. And a lot of these things are wheat based, and I don't know. And I like to cook. And they're like, well, you got to eat something for breakfast. And I'm like, no, I just pretty much do coffee. And they were just like shocked. They're like, how can you drink coffee on an empty stomach? It does this to me, that. And here I was drinking another coffee and getting ready to go for another. And they're like, you can't do that. You got to get some food, you know, breakfast. And I'm like, listen, a lot of the breakfast foods are just, they have wheat in them. I can't do them. The stuff I can eat is a little bit more involved. So they were just giving me a hard time for drinking coffee the way I do. So after I left the office, that's kind of like the business office where I work, I was done with that coffee and I made another one and killed it before I left to go do this. So that's why I'm sans coffee right now. I will be having some later tonight as I work on this video for sure. Okay, so back to the book and that connection. So let's start with the first connection. Let's not get into the handbook just yet. It's the first time I ever noticed that it said handbook on the edge too, by the way. So I've been into the tiki culture and tiki bars for a while, okay? I'm not going to say back to the 80s. That was like my initial fascination with tiki stuff. But in around 2003, back when Tiki Central was going strong and Sven's book was very new, another guy I know, I have a lot of his books and they're all signed to me because whenever I see him, or I know I'm going to be seeing him, I take the book with me and have him sign it, or I buy it directly from him and have him sign it right there. But I was into it then, and I wasn't drinking at that point. I didn't drink till I was 30 years old. So kind of around the time I started drinking and really getting into the full-fledged, you know, tiki culture stuff, a lot of people kind of like just in my universe seemed to be doing the same thing. And he didn't tell me right away. Like, I don't know why, if it was a secret or something, But one of the guys who had graduated from the film school where I worked before I started there, Kevin, Mr. Kevin Marcus at Knowledge Tree Films, if you're out there watching, hello. Him and presumably some of his, friends or colleagues did a documentary on rum. It's called A Rum Story. And they got this guy, Ed Gamester. This guy's a character, man. He's got long hair, very thick English accent. He's like a strong man, like axe thrower. This guy like jumps in frozen rivers. He's an animal. He's an absolute animal. And he's actually a very funny and very nice man. So I found out they were doing a screening at my friend Murph's Tiki Bar, Tonga Hut, in North Hollywood. So my kids wanted to go to Universal. We had passes. So I dropped my wife and my kids off there. I went up. So this is the connection. Here I am at a tiki bar that a friend of mine owns that is screening a film by a guy who went to the same film school I was involved with, who is producing a rum documentary. And it was like the whole tiki scene. He interviewed a bunch of people from the tiki scene. People I knew were in the film. He was screening it at my friend's bar. And so I dropped the kids and my wife at Universal. I went over there. I helped them set up the equipment and stuff like that. So I thought that was kind of a cool connection with just the documentary stuff that I was involved in, the film school, the student from there who had graduated from there, the subject matter, where the screening was. And then Ed Gamester, he wrote this book, this handbook. It is not a big book. And it's an easy read and it's fun. And he writes about, I'm not going to get into it too much because it's been a while since I've read it. But he writes about different types of people, okay? So, and he figures, from what I gather, everybody kind of falls into one of these categories of people. And they all have their strengths and they play off of each other. And it's a really fun book. In fact, once I speak to him and try to get some more of these and at least get one signed for my Jackass buddy, maybe I'll go more into it. But like, there's like the type of person like the oarsman, right? Or the oars, like rowing boat oars. The smith, right? Like the blacksmith or the goldsmith, but the smith, the reveler, the ranger, the poet, the flame keeper, the storm dancer is another one, the stranger. So he has these different categories, and it's pretty cool. And he has like these rules on adventure and stuff. Like I said, we'll go into it at some point. But let me cover up his name. But I got an inscription in my book from here. I'll just read it to you. It says, "Thanks, Daniel. I really enjoyed the book. Great look on life and such fun to read." And then he signed his name, Jackass Wildboyz. So thank you so much. You know who you are. I'm going to work hard to get you one of these books, one of these handbooks. And we'll talk about it more once I go back and forth with Ed on this. Really cool guy. All right. I'm just going to drive back to Ventura, get that stuff for dinner. And I'll be editing tonight for this, the official semi-daily vlog of Daniel Smith Ventura. Here I go again. Thank you so much for joining me. And until I see you next time, take care.